enough to lean against the frame. "Can I help you?" The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a banker gives right before he tells you your house is being foreclosed. "Mr. Mackenzie," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "I'm here to offer you a way out of your current situation." Josh didn't blink. "I didn't know I needed one." The man chuckled, like he had heard this before. "We both know you've made things difficult for yourself. There's no reason for this to get worse." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and held it out. "This is a revised buyout offer. 3 times the market value of your home. No strings attached." Josh didn't take it. "And if I say no?" The man's smile didn't fade, but the warmth drained from his eyes. "Then things get unpredictable." Josh exhaled slowly, keeping his expression neutral. "That a threat?" "A prediction," the man corrected. "One that I strongly suggest you consider." Josh finally took the paper, glanced at it, then crumpled it in his fist and tossed it onto the porch. "Not interested." For the first time, the man's polite mask slipped. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. But just as quickly, he composed himself. "That's disappointing," he said, stepping back. "You should sleep on it." Then he turned and walked away. Josh stood there, watching as the man got into a sleek black sedan and drove off. He didn't need to read the contract to know what it meant. They were done playing games. That night, he reinforced every lock on his house. He checked the security cameras, backed up the footage, and made sure every motion sensor was working. He wasn't paranoid, he was prepared, because if these people thought they could scare him into selling, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. The first hit came 2 days later. It started small. A letter from the city, citing him for unauthorized landscaping and demanding he remove his hedge or face fines. A completely fabricated complaint from the HOA, accusing him of violating community guidelines. Someone had even slashed one of his tires overnight. Petty, annoying, but not surprising. Then they stepped it up. Josh came home one afternoon to find his garage broken into. His tools were scattered. His workbench had been flipped over. And right in the middle of the mess, a brick, with a note tied around it. "Last chance." Josh's blood ran cold. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a promise. He wasn't just some guy who fixed cars. He knew how things worked. He had spent enough time around mechanics, construction workers, and business owners to know when a deal was being forced. And he knew what came next if he didn't fold. He also knew something they didn't. He had been recording everything, every interaction, every phone call, every security alert. He had backed up footage of the black SUV plowing through his hedge. He had files on every crooked permit request tied to Karen and her contacts. He even had a name. The suited man had been careful not to introduce himself, but Josh had run a license plate check on that black sedan. The name on the registration? Paul Langford, a developer, one with a history of shady deals and disappeared records. The kind of guy who didn't take no for an answer. Josh didn't go to the cops. They wouldn't do anything. Karen had too many people in her pocket. Langford had bigger people in his. Instead, he went straight to the press. He spent the next few hours uploading everything. Copies of forged documents, financial transactions tied to Langford's companies, aerial footage of illegal construction projects they had already started, on land they didn't even own yet. And then he sent an anonymous tip to every major news outlet in the state. He knew the second the story hit. His phone started buzzing. Emails flooded in. Reporters asking for interviews. The city council suddenly wanted to review some of the recent permits that had been approved. Then, right on cue, Karen showed up at his house. Josh didn't answer the door at first. He just watched from the window as she stood on his porch, arms crossed, her phone in hand. She was furious. After a minute, she pounded on the door. "Open up, Josh." He took his time. When he finally pulled the door open, she was seething. "You have no idea what you've just done," she snapped. Josh smiled. "Pretty sure I do." You just made yourself a target, she hissed. You think Langford's just going to let this slide? You think I'm going to let this slide? Josh leaned against the doorframe. See? That's the thing, Karen. I don't think you have a choice anymore. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. You're going to regret this. Josh held up his phone and tapped the screen. A red light blinked. Recording. Karen's face paled. Josh smirked. Smile, Karen. You're on record. She backed away, her expression a mix of panic and rage. Without another word, she turned and stormed off. Josh closed the door and locked it, exhaling slowly. He had just blown the whole thing open, and he knew, without a doubt, the real fight was just getting started. Josh barely slept that night. He knew he had set something in motion that couldn't be undone. The news had spread faster than he expected. Reports about shady land deals, forged permits, and illegal construction projects tied to Langford were everywhere. The HOA wasn't just under scrutiny, it was under siege. Karen had made a mistake showing up at his house, threatening him while he was recording everything. The moment he uploaded that clip, people started asking questions. Questions the HOA didn't want to answer. By morning, the fallout had begun. The first sign was the frantic knocking on his door. Not a single knock, but a rapid, desperate pounding. Josh already knew who it was before he even opened the door. Karen stood there, hair disheveled, eyes wide with panic. She didn't even wait for him to speak before pushing inside, slamming the door behind her. You have to take that video down, she blurted. Josh just stared at her. Good morning to you two. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but she was failing miserably. Josh, listen. You don't understand what you've done. Langford, he's not like us. You think this is about HOA fines and property disputes? You've dragged the wrong people into the light. Josh folded his arms. So you're finally admitting it. This was never about my hedge, was it? Karen looked away, her jaw tightening. The hedge was just an excuse. Langford needed the land. We were supposed to make things difficult for you, pressure you until you gave up. Josh felt a cold anger settle in his gut. He had known it, but hearing her say it out loud made it real. He shook his head. And you were okay with that? She laughed bitterly. You think I had a choice? Do you have any idea what happens when you say no to Langford? Josh didn't answer. Karen ran a hand through her hair, exhaling shakily. Josh, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you want me to go down for this. But I'm telling you, if you don't leave this alone, Langford is going to come after you. Josh studied her for a long moment. He already has. Her eyes widened. What? Josh nodded toward the corner of his living room. A small red light blinked on his security system. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through the footage. Last night, he said, turning the screen toward her. Karen's face paled. The footage showed a black SUV idling outside his house. No headlights, no movement. Just watching, waiting. They were here for almost an hour, Josh said. Just sitting there. And then they left. Karen swallowed hard. That's not a warning. That's a message. Josh's jaw clenched. He had expected retaliation. But this was different. This wasn't just about intimidation anymore. Langford wasn't waiting for the media storm to die down. He was making his next move. Josh had already made his decision. He wasn't backing down. But he wasn't going to wait for Langford to act either. He grabbed his keys. Where are you going? Karen asked. Josh opened the door. To finish this, she hesitated, then followed. Josh drove straight to City Hall. By now, the news had shaken up enough people that some of Langford's supporters were jumping ship. They wanted distance, and Josh was about to force the rest of them to do the same. He walked in with Karen trailing behind him, straight to the city clerk's office. The receptionist barely looked up. I need to file a motion for an emergency hearing, Josh said, dropping a thick stack of printed documents onto the counter. The receptionist frowned. On what grounds? Josh tapped the top page. fraud, illegal land seizure, HOA corruption. The woman blinked. You have evidence? Josh smiled. Plenty. Within an hour, Langford's whole operation started unraveling. City officials scrambled to distance themselves. HOA board members resigned overnight. Investigators started pulling permits, bank transactions, and project approvals. Langford wasn't just exposed. He was cornered. By the next evening, Josh got the call. Langford had been arrested, not just for the land fraud, not just for the fake permits, but for bribing city officials, falsifying documents, and orchestrating harassment against homeowners. Karen sat across from Josh at his kitchen table, staring at the news on her phone. I can't believe it, she whispered. Josh leaned back. Believe it? She shook her head. I thought he was untouchable. Josh exhaled. They always think that, until they get caught. The next day, the HOA dissolved. The fines, the fabricated complaints, all of it vanished. Josh stepped outside, looking at his yard. The hedge was gone, but for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he had lost. He would rebuild it. He would plant something new. And this time, he wouldn't be the only one watching over it. Karen walked up beside him. You really won. Josh smirked. I never had a choice. She glanced at him, then at the empty space where his hedge used to be. I guess you're staying. Josh nodded. Damn right I am. And with that, he turned back toward his house. Finally free of the war that had been forced on him, Langford was gone. The HOA was gone. And Josh's home was finally his again,